What is happening in Syria? Is Syria simply stalling by trying to work out this deal? Well, they will turn over control of their chemical weapons to an international authority, as brokered by, or as suggested by, as explored by Russian diplomats. The Wall Street Journal today has an article where they quote Senator John McCain, a Republican from Arizona, and they say that, or rather, John McCain says that this entire call for a Russian plan for Syria to hand over control of its weapons is just a stalling tactic. He said this today at an event this morning with after President Barack Obama addressed the nation about the possible diplomatic progress that's taking place. He said he is severely skeptical about the possibility of a compromise. He says the origins are queasy. And he says that I'm worried that we have a game of rope-a-dope for a while and the slaughter goes on. There's an additional complication now to this entire Syria situation, which is that the BBC's latest report on Syria indicates that the UN Human Rights Council now says all sides of the Syrian civil war are committing atrocities, are committing war crimes, and are committing crimes against humanity, and that all sides appear to have, or at least have ready access to, chemical weapons. Rebel fighters are increasingly guilty of summary executions. And this really gets us back to the original thing, Lewis, which is let's assume there was widespread support for limited military airstrikes in Syria. Let's assume that they are successful in toppling the Assad regime. Let's assume they are successful in destroying all of the chemical weapons controlled by the Assad regime. And let's assume that there are absolutely no civilian casualties, right? A completely unreasonable and unlikely expectation to have. Let's assume all of that happens. Who takes control? We have rebel groups, as the UN's Human Rights Council report says, that are increasingly guilty of summary executions with access to the same chemical weapons that are presumably drawing us into this conflict in the first place. There is no confidence, Lewis, of two things. Number one, there's no confidence that Syria will end up in any better shape if rebels take control. We don't even know which group will take control. And number two, we have no confidence at all that because of this situation with the fractured rebel groups and chemical weapons access, the U.S. won't end up in a boots-on-the-ground situation, which would be an absolute disaster.
That would be a huge disaster. It could also be the only possible way to stabilize the country if that's something we want. I mean, there's going to be bloodshed with or without chemical weapons. I don't see how that's going to make a difference. I think it's just a lame excuse on our part, but there could be violence there for a very, very long time. Once one of these fractured rebel groups takes control, one of the other groups might say, well, whoa, why is it them? It should be us. And it goes on and on.
You're actually making a good point, which is even without the Assad regime, we could still have a de facto civil war between groups that are not even officially in power. I mean, the idea that these airstrikes are going to solve anything seems completely juvenile and just does not make sense. We're going to continue following it. A lot more Syria news expected later this week.